Good evening. 7-year-old Christy Shepherd and her 6-year-old brother Bobby died from carbon monoxide poisoning at their holiday villa in Corfu in October 2006. Today, nearly 9 years on, and a week after saying they had done nothing wrong, the boss of tour operator Thomas Cook finally said sorry. Peter Fankhauser, who will now meet the children's parents, admitted that the company had failed to show compassion. Rita Clifton is the co-founder and chairman of the brand consultancy Brandcap. Rita, I guess this is what happens when lawyers write your press releases instead of PR professionals.
I'm afraid so. I mean, these are terrible, terrible circumstances. And anyone who's got children, it's almost unwatchable. As far as Thomas Cook is concerned, of course, they haven't covered themselves in glory. I mean, they haven't followed really any of the best practice of how to deal with a terrible situation like this. You know, there are some mitigating circumstances. They've had changes of CEO, there have been operational issues, a lot of legal issues around here. But at the end of the day, if this sort of thing happens, you've got to come out, you've got to own the problem. You can't blame other people. People bought a holiday with a Thomas Cook brand. You've got to be accountable, responsible. Secondly, you've got to go way beyond what you think is minimally necessary, financially, operationally, emotionally. And thirdly, you've got to communicate in a warm and human way. This is a human tragedy. It requires a human response. You can't hide behind press releases, and I'm afraid what they're doing now is very much too little, and I'm afraid rather too late.
I'm Peter Fankhauser, even today, the chief executive, not giving any interviews. Obviously, we've asked for one. Would you advise him to come out and do one?
I think it's very important for a company to put a human face on. I know there are legal issues, but it's easy to hide behind press statements. This will not help to reassure people. What they need to do now is they need to come forward and say, this is what we're doing about it. These are the standards we're putting in place, these are the process we're putting in place to make sure this will never happen again. But above all, they totally understand what's happened here. And again, it's putting a human face on this terribly, terribly tragic circumstances. You've got to get on the front foot. It's been so late. This has been an analogue response, in a digital world, let alone all of the human tragedy around it. On the upside, Thomas Cook is a strong brand. It's got a very long history of being a trusted brand too. They've got to win that trust back. It's possible to do that. Toyota did it. Do you remember we were talking about the terrible circumstances surrounding Toyota, but they got out, they said what they were going to do about it. The CEO came out and he bowed. This is an extraordinary and symbolic event. Absolutely. We've had an apology today. Maybe the tone of voice and the way it's delivered could be rather improved, but they've got to go a whole lot further, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they've done enough to see off this threat of a boycott? It started online.
Well, when it comes to boycotts and things like that, people get very angry at the time. Sometimes even in research surveys, people will be angry, they'll be, radical, reactionary and so on. But in the end, if Thomas Cook is doing a good job offering a great product and reassuring people on how they're going to do it and making sure that they do compensate this family and they do put a human face on it, I think that they can recover their position, but they've still got a long way to go. And
briefly, Rita, any mitigating circumstances for the board here? I mean, they can say they were trying to act in shareholders' interests by seeing off any legal liabilities.
There are many different shareholders here, many different stakeholders here, and clearly shareholders are very important. That'll be surrounded by legal issues. But at the end of the day, this company, as indeed any company, will only succeed if it works with its customers, if it makes its customers happy, if it really is safe and satisfactory for their customers. And in those circumstances, you have a sustainable business. If you don't make your customers happy, you do not have a business under any circumstances.
OK, Rita Clifton, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.